In our Season 1 finale, we were playing against the Buccaneers, and we were fighting for either third place or last place in the NFC South. And for a majority of the game, we were well in control, but in the fourth quarter, we let up. The game drew back to even, sending us into overtime, where we walked away with the win, finding Adam Thielen in the back corner of the end zone. And as soon as that play happened, so started our first off-season. Now, there is a whole lot of work for us to do in this episode to get this roster ready for Season 2. But first and foremost, we have been given the full head coach job. No longer an interim is Steve Smith Sr. We have a 3-year deal worth $5 million. On top of that, we also plan to make a couple changes to our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, which we'll get to when that time comes around. But it's time to officially end Season 1, see if we have any Pro Bowlers, see if we won any awards, and then get to signing our restricted free agents and then open free agency. So up first is going to be the Pro Bowler, and these are the rosters. I'll go through it pretty quickly, not really going to name anyone if they're not on our team. Unfortunately, we don't see Chuba Hubbard in there. He had a really good later half of the season, but for the main whole part of the season, not as big. Fortunately, Adam Thielen doesn't make it. He was a 1,000-yard, 11-touchdown receiver. We'll see what happens with him as we go through this offseason. If we keep him around or maybe use him as trade candy, we will see for sure. All options are on the table, and I'm not seeing much of anything here for us on either offense, nor are we seeing anything on the defensive side. Special teams is about up here, and no. So no Pro Bowlers for us in Season 1. As for yearly awards, Joe Burrow did win the NFL MVP with Coach of the Year going to Kyle Shanahan. Going through all the individual awards, Josh Jacobs over on the AFC side, Offensive Player of the Year. Josh Allen, Defensive Player of the Year, with Offensive Rookie going to Rashee Rice, and then Defensive Rookie, Will Anderson Jr. Best Quarterback, Joe Burrow. Josh Jacobs, Best Running Back. George Pickens wins Best Receiver. Joe Thuney, Best O-Line. Max Crosby, Best D-Line, with Josh Allen, Best Linebacker, although that's typically just Best Edge Rush. Chidobe Awuzie, Best DB, and Tyler Bass, Best Kicker. For the NFC side, Offensive Player of the Year is Brandon Ayuk. We didn't have anyone in the top list there. Defensive Player of the Year is Micah Parsons. Again, no one for us. Offensive Rookie went to Bijan Robinson. Really no surprise at all. Someone we're going to have to deal with every single season. Though Bryce Young was at least in the running, he was 5th. As for another guy in division, Trey Palmer was on the list as well for the Buccaneers. Defensive Rookie of the Year went to Jack Campbell. We did not have anyone on that list. Best Quarterback, Dak Prescott. Again, our guy not there, but Ritter was for the Falcons down at 9. Best Running Back, Bijan Robinson, and no real love for Chuba Hubbard way down here at 8. Didn't start the full season though, so guess kind of makes sense. As for receivers though, it does go to Brandon Ayuk, and Adam Thielen was 7th in the voting. Best O-line goes to Zach Martin. We did not have anyone in the running there. Best D-line, Micah Parsons. Again, no one for us. Best linebacker, Joe Schobert. And the Falcons did have Bud Dupree in that list. And we had Brian Burns down at 10. He didn't do anything after we took over besides a sack on the very last defensive play of the season. So we have some interesting things to definitely go through in this one. Marshawn Lattimore, Best DB. We did not have anyone on this list, but Richie Grant for the Falcons did make the list. And Best Kicker did go to us. Eddie Pinheiro, I want to say he hit all of his extra points and was like 17 of 18 on field goals. So we won something at least. But that does bring us to Super Bowl week, and to no one's surprise, it's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll take a look at both teams' path to the Super Bowl, and it started in Wild Card Weekend here for the Chiefs. They are the 7th seed. They snuck by the 2-seed Bills 31-28. They then had to go through the number 1 seed Bengals, and they won that one slightly better, 28-21. And then in the AFC Conference Championship, it was the 7th seed versus the 5th seed Baltimore Ravens lost that one by 2, 26-24. As for the Eagles, they also started in Wild Card Weekend with a closer game. I mean, it's one score against our division rival Falcons. They are the 6th seed. Falcons were the 3 seed. Eagles won 28-21. They then went same path as the Chiefs against the 1 seed here. That one, a slightly closer game, 31-28 over the 49ers. And then it was Cowboys versus Eagles. 2 seed versus 6 seed. Eagles won 21-14. I like the rivalry, though, in the NFC Conference Championship. That is fun. What's not fun is seeing the Chiefs and the Eagles in the Super Bowl every year. But who's going to take it, the 7th seed or the 6th seed? And it goes to the Chiefs, 31-28, the 4th Super Bowl championship for the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the Super Bowl MVP and the final award winners you can see over the right-hand side. So despite the Chiefs not really having a receiving core for the most part, going into this year, they still end up on top. Eagles make it close. There was a lot of close games for both of these teams. There wasn't really any blowouts in any of the playoff games for them, and they officially end our season 1 with the Chiefs being victorious in back-to-back seasons after it was once again the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles the year before, 38-35. We'll see if that stretch continues or if someone can finally shake that up. But as we sit here in the offseason, the staff week, there's a couple things we need to check in on. And the first is going to see if we have any retirements. And in fact, we do have a couple. A tight end, JJ Jansen, honestly, I didn't even know he was on the roster. Maybe he's actually a long snapper, but Adam Thielen does end up retiring after this year. He came to the Panthers. He wanted one more year to try to get a ring. And unfortunately, Panthers were not who we all thought that they might have been at the beginning of this year. And he does not stick around for one more. I'll be honest, I was planning on trading him to a Super Bowl contender this offseason if he did not retire. Because we need some picks. We need some extra guys to help rebuild this team. And if Thielen was coming off a 1,000-yard season, had 11 touchdowns, and I was probably going to try to ship him to KC. For being honest, I give him a good chance. But he retires. Joining those two, Case Keenum retires, Cameron Hayward retires, Taysom Hill, Demario Davis. So 2 big ones for a rival for us. Aaron Rodgers also retires, Randall Cobb at the same time, even Al Woods, some big names going there. Tyrod Taylor, Trent Williams retires, Calais Campbell, Cordell Patterson, Jason Kelsey retired, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Raheem Mostert. A lot of some big names here, Kareem Jackson even. Also, can't forget Von Miller. Ndamukong Suh also officially calls it a career. Linval Joseph, Jason Peters. And to round it all off, head coach Pete Carroll also ends up retiring. So a lot of big names retire after just one season. Now, the next thing that we're going to do in this week, staff week, is essentially for the lore, because we can't quite do any customization ourselves. For the lore of this series, we are firing Andrew Weaver and Darren Young, our offense and defensive coordinators. In their place, we're going to be bringing in some Panthers legends. To coordinate our offense, we are bringing in Greg Olsen. I loved watching him, and with the success we've seen from our tight ends, I surely hope that he would just build upon that. For the defense, we're bringing in none other than Luke Kuechly. He was pretty much a surprise young retiree, and potentially he just wanted to get less involved in the hitting aspect, save the mentals a good bit, save the body, and get into a little bit more of the coaching. And that's exactly what we're giving him a chance to do here, becoming our defensive coordinator. So now we have 3 Panthers legends as our coach. Obviously, Steve Smith Sr. going to be the head coach. Now Greg Olsen and Luke Kuechly all coming back. That seems pretty good to me. And their first job is a big one as we reach the re-signing period here. We only have $73 million. That's more than expected because we did obviously have the retirees, so we have some more money. But there is a lot of guys here for us to kind of sort through, and a lot of them they just don't have a whole lot of interest. Now, when we first started this series, it was one of the first things I wanted to do in re-signing Brian Burns and re-signing Frankie Louvu as we moved him back to the outside where he should have been playing. Neither one have interest and neither one really performed very well for us. It's hard to let someone go like Brian Burns, who is an 89 superstar dev. That is fantastic trade candy right there, but not interested in coming back. We'll still probably try to sort out a deal there, but the first one is an easy one for us. JC Horn essentially is going to be like a free agent signing as we did not have him this year. He's an 84 overall. He's a star dev. He's gotten more zone coverage. I'm more of a man kind of style myself, but I like the flexibility. He has good press, and I definitely don't hate him at all. 6'1", 200 is a good size as well, so we are definitely going to be picking up the 5th-year option for JC Horn. Now, Jeremy Chin, we didn't actually end up using at all this year because we wanted to focus on some of the younger guys, and he very much does not fit the man coverage, and I need some of that, so Jeremy Chin, we will be moving on from. As for Deion Jones, really liked him this year outside of covering some very athletic tight ends. He was solid. He's 29 years old now, a 77 true overall. He still has a lot of speed, but it didn't really translate out onto the field. He definitely was lacking that first step, but I would like to still keep him around. As for any regressions, no, he didn't regress at all this offseason. I would like to work out a deal for Deion Jones. Now, he is looking for a 3-year deal, which would carry him to 32 years old, and it's about $5.5 million for all three. That's the total number, and I think we could definitely work that out. He doesn't have a whole lot of interest in this right now, so I feel like we could bump some numbers around and see if he likes this. It's still 5.5, but a little bit more on the bonus. 3-year deal, Deion Jones returns. As for Frankie Louvu, he didn't do anything. I mean, even in the just sim stats before we came in, he wasn't doing a whole lot either. So we're going to move on from Frankie Louvu. Potentially, if he doesn't have a market in free agency, we could try to bring him back. But we're moving on from him for now. Now, one player who I do have some interest in is Laviska Shenault Jr. We're down to 2 receivers right now. Adam Thielen retired. We have Mingo and we have Terrence Marshall. Outside of those two, we really don't have many other options as we are letting DJ Chark go. I want to bring back Laviska Shenault because I feel like he could be a really good slot receiver for us, and we don't currently have that on roster. Plus, he's just a good guy after the catch. I mean, 90 ball carrier vision, so he should be a good guy to try to get going, and hopefully we can end up bringing him back. He wants a about $8 million deal for 3 years. Not all too expensive at all. Just bump some of these numbers around a little bit. He has some interest, and with this deal, he's actually really excited about it. I offered him what he was looking for, and he apparently was betting high on himself. Now, another player I do really want to re-sign is CJ Henderson. He's not very highly rated, just a 73. But the play we saw from him was really good. The ratings, again, not very high, but I believe he could play a slot corner for us, or at least provide maybe some competition if we're able to find anything maybe in the draft. I would like to go after Henderson. He doesn't have a whole lot of interest, but he's looking for about a 2-year deal worth $4 million in total. So again, we're going to lower the salary here. We're going to raise up the bonus, offer that one, but he wants to test. We'll see what his market is in open free agency. As for everyone else down the line, we've just said no to for now. Again, maybe some of these guys, if we like the ratings, can come back later on. But we're seeing guys like Gruger Hill or Gru J Hill, again, never figured that one out. We're moving on from, he's 30 years old, he's down to a 65. He played really well for us, but we need to find some young guys to really help build towards the future, and a lot of these guys weren't. Tommy Togiai, kind of on the younger side, but he just wasn't interested. Raheem Blackshear, maybe we look to go back to him, but he's already 25. He's got maybe 2 good years left, and then regression's going to hit for running back. So with the fact he's only a 70, not all too promising. We are moving on from Gross Matos. Again, maybe we come back to him depending on what style of defense we end up building, which is going to very much depend on what we see in free agency and in the draft. David Long, we are moving on from. He made some decent plays here and there. He just wasn't consistent. So we miss out on Henderson. Hopefully we bring him back. But everything else kind of went according to plan. But that leaves us with Brian Burns. Now he's wanting a 5-year deal, 21.5 total. So the yearly, I mean, it's not awful, but he just didn't do anything this year. But could that have just been a single season issue and he could dramatically rebound following? That's kind of what I want to bank on. So we're going to make this offer. Again, he's not highly interested in coming to us. And if we do make this signing, it's going to very much deplete what we do have remaining for cap space going into open free agency. So we'll put out an offer we're more okay with and see if he ends up taking it. And he does not. I didn't expect he would. We'll see what the market is, and we'll see what all of our options are in open free agency, which is where we're heading to next. And of course, to really prepare for open free agency, we do need to see where we need help. Going through each position here, we at least have our starter. We have a backup in Andy Dalton. He is a mentor, so honestly, I'm fine with keeping him as our backup. Running back, we do still have Miles Sanders, and I'm going to see if any team is interested in picking up Miles Sanders. If he does stay around, fine by me, but we could look elsewhere. And then there is Matt Colburn, who is a 59 overall, and that's receiving a boost. So we're actually just going to go ahead and make some space here on roster because we don't need that. We do, however, need some depth at the running back spot. As for receiver, we also potentially need some help here. See what all is possible, really focusing in on short and medium route running and release. If we need some guys on the outside. As for now, these are kind of our starting 3. And honestly, Shenault could even play on the outside because he does have slightly better release than Terrence Marshall. But we have a good top 3 in terms of pretty young guys, but we definitely need to find some depth there. At tight end, I don't believe Hayden Hurst ended up regressing much at all, if any. Okay, he did actually regress quite a bit, but the overall is still sitting at a decent spot. If we are to make anything happen at tight end, it would probably be through a draft. And Hayden Hurst does not provide much in terms of run blocking. So that's maybe something to consider. We do still have Tommy Trimble, and Ian Thomas is back from IR from last year. So we have the depth needed if we want to keep with this group. We did let Sullivan go, but again, we then picked up Ian Thomas from IR. So ends up evening out. For this offensive line, we do have Ekwonu. Definitely going to be a bookend tackle, hopefully for us. Maybe to see if there's any option to upgrade over Christensen, and maybe Bozeman as well. Austin Corbett, I'm perfectly fine with. And then we do have Tyler Moton. He's 30 years old, but he's an 81 overall. It's not awful. He did give up, I want to say it was 10 or 11 sacks this last year, but the ratings are still sitting at a pretty solid spot. So it's not a big need for us, at least at tackles. You can maybe look for maybe a center or maybe a guard. Center probably more, as Bozeman is 29. As for the defensive line, we have no left ends. We have Derek Brown, who, again, depending on what we end up running, whether it's a 4-3 or 3-4, he's going to be on the interior. But if we have a 3-4, he could still kind of stick at a right end spot. For DTs, we need help there. Shy Tuttle, we don't need him to be a starter. He can maybe be a depth rotational player. Outside linebackers, again, depends on if we're going to have the 3-4, the 4-3. Right now, it's just DJ Johnson at outside linebacker, left outside linebacker. We could use maybe trying to find a young guy for this middle linebacker group. Another guy we did get back from IR, Shaq Thompson. I want to say he broke his leg, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully he didn't lose a step or two with that. 85 speed, 86 acceleration. He's going to be more of the run stopper, not as much of the cover guy. We'll see what options are in open free agency as well as the draft. I would like to find a young guy to start learning behind these two, and unfortunately neither one have the mentor tag, but maybe, depending on what we find, Shaq Thompson could also be a trade target. He does have that tag. Now, corner, again, we mentioned earlier, back from IR JC Horn, so we kind of get an upgrade there. Dante Jackson, we ended up not starting him for a good bit of the season. We went with some of the younger guys. He's 28 years old. He's an 81 overall star dev, and he has some pretty decent coverages, but there's just no press ability there, which would make me want to play him in the slot, but he doesn't have any tackling ability. So Dante Jackson is honestly another person who I would fully willing to trade away at this point. As for the depth, nothing all too crazy. There is Isaiah Brown is 26 already at 66. So corner is a group that we could definitely look to bring some people in. And I would even say the same at safety. I'm also going to put Xavier Woods here on the trade block. We don't have anyone to take over for him right now, so definitely going to look in free agency. Von Bell, another guy I'm going to put on the trade block as well. These older guys we need to move on from. They're going to regress. Jamie Robinson, I think, played just as well in the games he started compared to what we saw from Von Bell. So that's at least why do we have 3 kickers? Why is that ever needed? We'll just make a couple extra bucks here by clearing some space, getting rid of the backup kickers. But we know at least what we need to go after. And for the most part, it's every position except for offensive line outside of center. And to open free agency, we already are seeing some high overall guys here. Tyron Smith is available. Brian Burns obviously is available. He has 12 teams interested, so most likely we will not be bringing him back. Christian Wilkins is also available. He's definitely someone that could fit in a 3-4 style of a defense. There is CJ Gardner-Johnson at free safety. Now that is really intriguing, and no other teams have put in any offers yet. Now he's only 26 years old, star dev. He's got some solid speed with some cover skills, both zone and man. I mean, it looks like this could probably be a really good signing for us, and he would be solid for a number of years. Moving past him, though, we do also see Austin Eckler, an older running back, not interested. Levante David is no longer part of the Buccaneers, so they also moving to trying to get younger. We just saw him do a really good job against Hubbard in the last game. Grover Stewart at 30 years old will be a stopgap for sure. Another safety option in Grant Delpit, this time at strong safety, 25 years old, definitely an option. So there's at least some decent options for us to fill out some spots of need. Frankie Louvu does have some offers as well. Not any top-end looking interior defensive lineman outside of the one in Christian Wilkins, who's 28 years old. Not any top-end pass rushers. What do we got in receivers? Curtis Samuel available. Rashid Shaheed at 26 years old. So, if anything, we'll probably find some veterans to fill out maybe some depth for the receiving group. Tight end, anything big? Not really. Running back, any solid young talent? There's Zach Moss, which could be an interesting complement to that of Chuba Hubbard. A.J. Dillon, even a little bit more of a compliment, really going with that power back style. And yeah, there's a fair few amount of different guys here who we could potentially look to bring in. Cam Akers available. You guys know I like Cam Akers. As for offensive line, obviously there is Tyron Smith. There is Jonah Williams at 26 years old. Not too bad. We don't need any tackles. We were mostly looking for the interior. As Ezra Cleveland is available, 77 overall at 26 years old. That would be a better option for us, at least in terms of overall compared to Christensen, plus getting a year younger as well. Options here. Though one thing to note with him is he is very much not a pass blocker, and I feel like we lean a little bit more on the passing game, even getting it through Hubbard. So maybe not as much with Cleveland. Looking at center, though, there is a younger guy here in Aaron Brewer. He's 26 years old, which is at least a few years younger than our current starter, but about the same overall. Still is struggling with some pass blocking. A little bit more balanced, though, in comparison to Cleveland, but nothing all too spectacular. And if there isn't anything spectacular, I don't feel like we have to make signings. So let's try to focus in a little bit more over on the defensive side. And there's really not a whole lot of interest from any of the top left ends. At DT, there is obviously Grover Stewart, which would be strictly a DT for us, as he has sub 70 speed. So that would still leave Derek Brown as a edge guy, which would provide some complement with Wilkins, but again, not really any interest from any of these defensive linemen. If we were to stick with the 3-4, we would need some outside linebackers, and still there's not many players at all that are showing interest in coming to this team. There's Gross Matos, who has interest in coming back. Down the middle then, what about linebackers? Any young options? There is Jordan Brooks, 26 years old, again, no interest. Now, a potential one here would be a little bit of a flyer signing in DJ Wanham. In real life, probably having his best season. Don't know if that really replicated here in Madden. But we see some pretty decent power moves, has a little bit of some block sheds, got some solid speed, tackling is pretty good. He's definitely someone who might be a cheaper signing, and at least if we do find someone in a draft, those two could compete. And then on the other side, we could look to bring back the only guy interested in coming to us in Gross Matos, who is 26 years old, 72 overall. What are his ratings? Honestly, I never quite looked at him. I just knew he was on the older half. They're comparable, I would say, to Wanham, so we can have those two if we stick with a 3-4. At cornerback, not really any young options. Obviously, we had Jeremy Chin, and we moved on from him because he didn't quite fit. So it would be signing some veterans, maybe go after Christian Fulton. Is he a man cover style? It's at least the archetype, and he could definitely work on the outside. But I really think the big signings we could try to go after is gonna be at safety, and then we can make some trades with Xavier Woods and Devon Bell. So let's try to negotiate here with Garner Johnson, a player who does have interest in coming here. 3-year deal worth about 10 mil per season. We could definitely make that work, bump this up even a little bit more. So take him to 29 years old. That's our first offer, and the only offer for CJ Gardner Johnson. And after taking a second look at our other safety option in Grant Delpit, I'm moving off of him because, if anything, he would be a free safety because he doesn't provide that much man coverage in comparison to the zone. But then the speed is sub 90, so plus the lack of interest with some offers already in. We could make at least one move at safety for Gardner Johnson, and he could play either of the safety spots, so we still have some flexibility in trading whoever would receive the most interest with our current safeties. And then for our second option, I think we're going to go back here to Grover Stewart and really try to bolster the defensive line, bolster the run stopping, which was a little bit of an issue at certain times. Now, Grover Stewart is 30 years old, so we don't want this to be a long-term deal, but he is pretty comparable, I would say, to Derek Brown. Slightly less of at least the ratings, but I think those two could tag team pretty well and would be our starting pass rushers for sure at the DT spot, as they both have some power moves. So that would at least be a stopgap and see what is available in the draft in about a year or two, meaning this year or next year's. And he's just looking for a 1-year deal, though it is a good chunk of money. So this would be very much an investment for a stopgap kind of player. We'll put the offer in and see where that lands us, and it's on top of his board. And if we're going after those two, we do need to find some guys on the outside. So Wanham, well, he doesn't have much interest. Neither do any of the other teams. He's looking for a 2-year deal here. Let's make it $3.5 million in total. We'll put out that offer. It's a soft offer. We'll see how much he likes it. And then we could go back to Gross Matos, trying to bring him back for a little bit of a cheaper deal, probably than what we would have had to re-sign him for, though he did have interest. Either way, it's a 2-year, $3 million offer. And that leaves us with one more remaining here for the first round. And I'm leaning towards making a signing here of Jawan Jennings. At receiver, he very much fits the short and medium route runner. That's really the main part of our offense, is the short, at most medium, quick pass game. We don't have that strong of an arm in Bryce Young, so the deep, it's not really that big of a thing for us. But he also has 79 release, so I like what we see here in Jennings. It doesn't have top end speed, but he could help fill out that group and will make us not have to rely on signing a bunch of undrafted receivers or having to draft a bunch of receivers. Now he's looking for a 3-year deal worth around $6.5 million. Let's make it exactly, though, $6.5 million. For 3 years, taking him up to 30, maybe you could even trade him or release him after that last year. We'll put in that soft offer as well. And that leaves our first 5 offers. Now, of all of these, we are on top, if not the only offers. So let's evaluate. And it looks like 2 of 3 decide. Of those 2 who have not decided, we are still the only offers put in. And we did get the other 3, so nothing crazy so far. Grover Stewart is in, Juwan Jennings is in, and Gross Matos returns. Let's see what other things we could find here. Maybe some other running backs. Now, I will say there's definitely some good options here. I just don't think the ones that would make a whole lot of sense, and at least ones that have interest in us while meeting our requirements, really are filling things out. I mean, Zach Moss could be nice. He's 26 years old. Alexander Madison, okay. Obviously in real life has struggled this year. We are looking for a complement guys, so like teaming up the Oklahoma State running backs with Justice Hill as well. I mean, could be fun, but we have 2 guys who do the same kind of thing. Wanted to find a power style guy who has some hands. I know Cam Akers can do that, but he's 25 years old. He does have some interest. We might end up trying to bring in Cam Akers, but I just feel like we might be able to get that from even a potential undrafted running back. Show a little bit of power with some hands. It's a possibility. Not saying that we don't bring in Cam Akers. Now, we do still need to fill out the rest of this defensive line, but we also have to remember we only have $22 million in cap space left with the 2 offers in for the remaining targets. But we need to find essentially some cheap options that provide a good amount of strength and some block shedding. Now, an intriguing option who doesn't have any other interest, nor does he have any interest in us, is Tristan Hill. He has the 88 strength, 74 block shedding, and he's expecting less than $4 million a season. We might be able to lower that even a little bit more. Let's go with this. Make it a $3 million offer. It's a 1 year, but he's 26 years old. Leaves us a little bit more money to spend. And inevitably, I've worked my way back over to Cam Akers. I think we're going to put in a little offer here. It's not going to be a flashy offer. We're going to lower the value here. Going to make it $4 million, so it's a little bit less. 2 years. We'll see how that tandem ends up working if he does decide to join. But I think that's about all the offers we are going to make here in open free agency, just due to our limited cap space. I want to keep that $15 million because we're going to have to sign some undrafted free agents for sure. So let's evaluate another time here. And again, all but 2 decide. This time, Wanham still holding out. Tristan Hill also holding out. But we do get in Gardner Johnson. I want to say he was one of the ones who was waiting. When we do bring in Cam Akers, and Gross Matos does come back. So let's evaluate one more time here, see if these 2 decide, and they have not. So we're gonna have to jump to round 2 and see if they decide to join then. And at least we do not see Wanham on this list any longer. Did he sign? Yes. So we do have our new starters on the outside, potentially in Wanham and Gross Matos. We're definitely gonna be checking out draftees, and hopefully we find some solid options. It just leaves Tristan Hill for us to try to fill out that defensive line. So let's evaluate one more time. No longer is he on the list, as he has also joined. So here's our free agent class, and all these guys are going to be involved this year. CJ Gardner Johnson taking over at one of the safety spots. We'll see which. Grover Stewart comes in. Juwan Jennings also coming in with Cam Akers at running back. Wanham, Gross Matos returns, and we bring in Tristan Hill to round out that defensive line. All in all, we brought in, on average, I would say 26 years old. We had a couple guys older than that. Grover Stewart at 30, Juwan Jennings at 27, but then Cam Akers draws that down a little bit at 25. So overall, we brought in guys that, outside of Grover Stewart, are going to still be developing for about 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons before they plateau and then start to drop off, which is pretty good for this rebuild. Buy us a little bit more time to bring in some younger talent, some rookie talent. But now it's time that we get focused on the draft, and for that we need to know where we're picking and what picks we have. And I've mentioned a couple times, we do not have a first round pick. Our highest pick is in the second round, 40th overall. We then have one in the third, one in the fourth. We have 2 fifth round picks and a 6th round pick. So we're not going to be finding really any of the top end guys. So we have to hit value with all of our selections and kind of go BPA, not focus primarily on our biggest area of needs, just bringing in as much young talent as possible. So let's see what our options actually are. We don't need quarterbacks, didn't scout them. Running backs, it's a possibility we go there late on, and there are some intriguing guys here. Quan Thomas out of Alabama does seem interesting. He's an elusive back, 6'1", 227, 21 years old. He has a decent 40, nothing too spectacular, but he does come with some power with that bench, and hopefully that's going to translate to a little bit of some trucking. He does have that listed as a B, with his catching rating also being a B to a D, so it's not for sure that he could catch the ball, but he has potential ability to be able to catch the ball and provide some of that power that we were looking for, and would be able to develop behind two what should be pretty good duos at running back. As for receiver, I've looked at all of these guys and none of them really jump out to me as someone I feel like we need to go after. If we're in a spot that we're not quite sure where we should go, maybe some of these round 1 to 2s fall and then we could take a look then, but unfortunately, I don't think it's that good of a receiver class. Now at tight end, I did have a focus scout here on Jordan Thomas, and as Madden typically does, it didn't give me any information, which is unfortunate because he looks like he could be a pretty solid late round project here for us. A day 3, 6'5", 273, 23 years old, out of Louisville. He has a pretty good physical build here, has some strength mixed in with some speed and agility. He can pass block a little bit, so I would assume the run blocking wouldn't be too bad. Has good catch in traffic, might need to work on some things here and there. I was hoping to find some more information to help clarify either his strength or his weaknesses, but Madden's gonna Madden sometimes. Outside of Thomas, there are a bunch of other options whose top end is all A to Bs, but it's a lot of uncertainty. But these are guys from round 2 all the way to potential undrafteds. As for offensive linemen, there's some round 1s for sure, but we obviously aren't selecting there. Spencer Richards did seem intriguing, but I feel like the guy I am most interested is actually at center, and it's another guy who was selected to be a focus scout that we didn't get any information on, in Eric Phillips. He's a day 3, but I feel like his actual talent is higher than that. 6'4", 313, 21 years old, out of Florida. He has pretty decent strength, overall a really good physical build here, and he has a pass block finesse, which seems pretty important. Obviously, the power ratings don't look all too fantastic, C to an F, but he's going to have guys on either side of him. At worst, it's a day 3 selection and it's a backup offensive lineman. At best, it's a day 3 selection and a starting offensive lineman. So definitely, I think, a good spot for us to go at later on, potentially one of those 6th round picks. As for the defensive line, there are some guys that seem intriguing, some dual talent kind of guys like Tremaine Skinner, but he's 268. I feel like that would be a little bit more of a 4-3 edge guy rather than a 3-4 interior defensive lineman, and I feel like that'd be too heavy to switch to an outside linebacker. In the day 3s, there are some guys who might have some good talent, some single ratings, like Calvin Sears out of Ohio State. I would imagine probably a B finesse moves. I doubt it's an A, but does seem intriguing. There's also Braxton Fitzgerald, who most likely will probably be an outside linebacker as well, who might be pretty well rounded. So there's at least some late guys. Some of these higher up guys, if they were to fall, that would be nice. There's another set of 2 over here at right end that are round 1 to 2s. If they were to fall, that would be pretty good for us. And Johnny Beasley, who has the ADC for both block shed and power moves. And then Dwayne Benedict, who does for sure have the A block shedding with what should be at least a decent bit of power moves. So there's some guys that if they fall to us, fantastic. If not, we'd have to rely on some of these lower projected players with more of single style ratings to just really perform well. At DT, kind of same thing throughout. Jamario McKay does seem really interested, but he's a true round 1. He's just very well balanced. Stephen Montgomery, if he were to fall, pretty similar, maybe a little bit lower of a top ceiling than McKay, but very similar style of player. There's also Jalen Palmer, who has the block shed and the power moves. Need to find someone with some dual ability that could at least maybe rival Tristan Hill that we just signed. As for the outside linebackers, I did find a couple guys that seem intriguing as for their edge rushing ability. Felix Lovelock being one of those out of Idaho. 6'5", 257. Has a decent combine result here. I mean, nothing spectacular, nothing jumping off the page, but it's not all awful. A to C finesse moves, B to D power moves, has C block shed, so is a lower overall of what could be a well-rounded player. Now, middle linebacker has a lot of intriguing guys in the round 2 to 4, with all these guys being pretty split even between some block shed ability as well as some cover ability. So we should be able to find a young linebacker to start developing, maybe provide us an opportunity to make a trade if need be. As for the cornerback spot, first off, I just have to show Sheldon Jett. We're not getting him at all. He's a top 5 corner, and he's definitely going in the top 5. He ran about a 4.31 to 4.34. He has some strength to his game as well. Overall, great athlete with A-man coverage, A to C press, and A to C zone coverage. I'm sure this dude is going to be fantastic. A catching, A awareness. Looks like a fantastic corner. We just don't have an option to get him. Guys we do have options for are going to be later on. There is Pat Garnes here at day 3, who does show some press ability. Coverage is a toss-up, and that's what most of these are, at least when it comes to Jaquan Cash out of Oklahoma. We know that he's very much just a man coverage, as the zone is a D, but does have press and the potential to have a higher ceiling for the man coverage, just very much one kind of guy. Now, one player that does seem interesting here is Lawrence Leonard out of Alabama. He's another day 3 at 6'2", 200 pounds. And he has a pretty okay combine, solid speed, not extremely strong. I mean, overall, he's a developmental guy, but I am very much intrigued by the A press and B man coverage. He's most likely going to be a developmental guy who might be able to play some slot corner, as he does have some B tackle ratings. So all in all, there are some intriguing guys here in the draft, but I'm just not quite sure on all of them, as we didn't get any really high completion ratings on any of these players. At safety, there are some options as well. There's Johnny McCoy. If he were to fall down the list, B's across the board, looks really intriguing. The other guys, again, they have some intrigue. Javon Johnson, the possibility to have both man and zone coverage would be good at a strong safety spot. Max Fields, we know what his cover ratings are, so that part is good. Am very much interested as well in Rashard Peel, maybe Pele, I don't know, could be fun. Now, he's around 3 to 4 with A to C man coverage and B to D zone coverage. Again, he was another guy that I wanted to have the focus scouts, but I didn't get any of that information because why not? As for the listed strong safeties, there is Jabari Dunlap around 1, who did look intriguing as a free safety because the man coverage not all there. Guys who have that potential for some man coverage, Darrell Horn out of Oklahoma has that B to D with zone coverage being a B. Taj Smith also has the potential there. Not so much with McKenzie. He is much more of a free safety, but we know that with the B zone coverage, which is why he's on the board. And then there is Thorpe, who again, potential. And as an undrafted, I think that's pretty solid. So there's just a whole lot of unknown. We don't really have that guy for us to go after when we get to our spot at 40, which we're not trading up for. If anything, we're trading down for to try to collect as much talent as possible. But with that being said, the draft has begun. And as just mentioned, we are not going to be trading up at all. We need as many picks as we have to really start to rebuild this roster. So I'm just going to skip straight to our selection here, see what's available, and then from there we can make a decision as towards what we want to do. So just first off, did anyone fall that we are intrigued with? There are some round 1s still available. There is a round 1 safety we were interested in Trent Nelson. Now, he does not have the man coverage, more of a zone style, so would play free safety. There is a receiver we had interest in Mason Wilcox out of Boise State, 6'1", 197. Now, when it comes to receivers, we are primarily looking for guys with short and medium route running. And we get at least B short with C medium. C release, but the hands are very questionable. Now, when it comes to the defensive line, there is Calvin Patterson, who is still there, around 1 to 2 projection. 6'4", 270. And he has some decent strength, but not what you're looking for a 3-4 defensive lineman with no block shedding, strictly pass rush, and I just don't think we go for that at this spot. And there is one guy I'm feeling a little interested in, and that is at receiver, in Jamie Cruz out of Ole Miss. He's 6'4", 233, 21 years old. And he runs a 4.41, which is not bad given the size. Bench reps are good vert, good broad. He's not the quickest nor most agile, but we run short, quick, medium routes at most. And he does have decent route running, with the short and medium both being C release, A catch in traffic, pretty good. What we're concerned about is the D catching. It's probably going to end up being, I would imagine, like a 78 or so. Do we go after him here? He's a round 1 to 2 projection. There are quite a few other round 1 to 2 projections still on the board here for receiver. So we might need to see what trade down opportunities we have, because outside of Cruz, there is the safety that's kind of intriguing, but no one is really screaming out to me as a high second round pick. And if we were wanting to trade down, I would want to stay relatively soon. So only dropping back a little bit. Is that an option? Well, with the Minnesota Vikings, we could drop back 8 more selections, pick up a current 5 and a future 6. Is that worth maybe missing out on the receiver? With the Raiders, be a couple picks even further, and we don't really gain anything better. With the Packers, not as far of a drop back to spot 46. We are at spot 40, and we pick up a current 6. And that is all the options. The only other one was with the Falcons, and we're not doing that. So if we were to trade back, with the Vikings, we would drop back 8 selections and would pick up a current 5th and then a future 6. Or you go with the other option, and you drop back 10 selections, pick up a current 7th, a future 4th. So a little bit better for further down the line, but not as much of a return this year. Or the Packers, you drop back only 6 spots, and you pick up a current 6, nothing in the future. We already have, I want to say it's 2, if not 3 6-round selections. So I'm leaning, even though I'm a Vikings fan, I'm leaning more on the Vikings pick here. Drop back 8 selections. We get a 5th round this year, and we get a 6 next year. I feel like I like that a good bit more. Hopefully the receiver is still there. We're making the trade offer here. We're going to drop back. Now let's go through each of these selections, and hopefully our guy doesn't end up going, because I'm leaning more towards the receiver. The Minnesota Vikings, though, they trade up, and they select quarterback Keith Nichols out of Missouri. I don't know anything about this quarterback class. Hopefully, as a Vikings fan, they found their guy for the future. Who knows? The Packers, they have 2 really close second-round selections. With their first one, they go with the safety option that we possibly could have went with in Trent Nelson. I just don't think he really was that good for what we needed compared to what we have that we don't have to get rid of. I'm perfectly fine with that, with us missing out on him. Hopefully we don't also miss out on the receiver, as it's Zeke Patterson, middle linebacker, going to the Colts out of Clemson. The Texans, they end up selecting left tackle Spencer Richards out of Ohio State. Division rival here for us, the Saints, at spot 12 in the second round. They go with receiver Jamie Cruz out of Ole Miss. So we're going to see him twice every single year. I think he went earlier than I was expecting, considering how many other first to second rounders there were. We miss out. With our first opportunity at making a draft, we miss out on the guy that we were kind of liking there, but I don't know. Again, I don't think any of these guys were really that special at this selection. So let's get to our pick, as Tony Norton goes before us. Good for Tony Norton. We're back on the board. Now, based on our remaining board, here's some of the guys I would consider taking here. At middle linebacker, not a spot of major need for us to start off with, but the 2 starters we do have there, they're on the older side. So Greg Hodgins, 6'1", 232, field general, 22 years old, out of USF. He has a pretty decent athletic build here, running anywhere from a 4.4 to a 4.46. Everything else is pretty solid, a really good 20-yard shuttle, pretty decent strength. We know the coverages are B for both zone and man with a hit power. I would imagine he would have some pretty decent tackling as well with that, though it's rated C to an F. I would imagine that's probably a C. He might have some injury concerns, C to an F. A to C awareness with the play rec being a C, so I'd again probably imagine that's a B to a C. So he has the potential for sure. Is he a hidden dev? Kind of hard to say. We then have Felix Lovelock, the outside linebacker, who is 6'5", 257, 23 years old, out of Ohio State. I believe we looked at him earlier. He has some intriguing skill set here, but also kind of raw in the fact that he doesn't really lean on one thing more than the other. The awareness and block shed, play rec, I mean, nothing really sticking out there, and we don't know for sure what the moves are. He is a finesse rusher. Is that an A? Is that a B? Either way, if you select him, you're going to be taking a risk because you don't know exactly what it is. As for the defensive interior, there is Calvin Patterson still there. He is around 1 to 2 projection, so if you're going BPA off the original board, Calvin Patterson is one of the top guys at 6'4", 270. He's just strictly the pass rusher. He doesn't provide any run stopping ability, and that's really going to limit what he could do for us. On the opposite side, there is Tremaine Skinner still available, that round 2 to 3, and he has the potential to have some block shedding and the potential to maybe flex out to an outside linebacker as well, given the fact he also has some pretty decent speed. Strength is okay. That's why I'm leaning more towards on an outside linebacker, though, with it being mid-20s in terms of reps. He has the B finesse moves, but nothing, again, there's nothing dominant with his game. You're just hoping that he also comes with some block shedding. As for receiver, we do have a couple options. There is still Mason Wilcox, the round 1 to 2, who is on the board. He's 6'1", 197, 22 years old. He's just not a burner. We don't need top end speed considering we run such quick routes. It's just the hands are a concern. I don't care about the F deep route because we're not running a lot of deep routes, but is the short route running, spec catch, good enough? I mean, if he plays on the outside, you don't have to worry as much about catching traffic, but if he has to play in the slot, catching traffic is a concern. There is also receiver Jaden Richard actually, who is a physical type, 6'3", 225, played at Connecticut. He's 22 years old. He's just really slow, but you don't have to worry as much about the hands, and he's just not as polished of a route runner. So really the whole draft class here, there's no one in particular that really screams out as being top end talent. There's still Quan Thomas, an interesting running back we could go after late on, but definitely not taking him there. So it really, I feel, comes down to, do we reach on a possible tight end, or do we go with the linebacker? Darren Bullock, 6'6", 250, 23 years old. I mean, it's some solid speed here. I mean, outside, I would like a little bit more on the bench reps. If it's more towards the NFL Combine, that's more doable. In terms of the ratings that we have, we don't have to worry about injury as much. It's a B. He has break tackle ability, so after the catch ability is there. Spec catch, nothing spectacular though. It's only a D. And a lot of these ratings are unknown. And later on, there is Jordan Thomas, a guy I was interested in. And he's arguably just as good of an athlete. And we know a little bit more about the catching from him. A catching traffic with B catching. We don't know as much about all the other ratings. And he's not going to break as many tackles, considering break tackle is a C. So considering we have a later option with tight end, I'm leaning at going more towards the linebacker spot. There's other options for sure with a linebacker, and who says we don't pick up two, considering two guys we have are both on the older side. But I think the best possible player for us to go after is probably going to be Greg Hodgins. Would have went with the other receiver, obviously he went. This looks like the most well-rounded skill set out of everyone that we looked at. So Greg Hodgins is our first draftee, and he's a hidden dev with 91 speed At linebacker, he's going to be flying around with 89 acceleration, 81 change of direction, 84 agility. He's at least going to be a really, really good athlete. And with that speed, if the tackling isn't all there, potentially strong safety? Again, we'll have to see what the cover ratings look like, but at least a versatile player, a slightly bigger build, but kind of reminds me of Isaiah Simmons. But from there, we're going to move on to the third round, jumping ahead here and seeing, again, best possible selection. Hopefully we make our selection a little bit quicker than we did on that last one. Now, who all is available and where? So the top running back I like is still available. He's a day 3, so hopefully he does stick around. Maybe go with him in the 5th round. We have several selections there, and I was incorrect earlier when we made the trade. We had multiple 5th round picks, only one 6th round. So we could have went with the 6th, that way we went with the higher up. Not going to argue with that. As for receiver, Richard is still there. The round 1 to 2 did go. None of these receivers really stick out to me though. It's just kind of a mediocre class. A lot of the tight ends did go. So if we want to secure Jordan Thomas, we might have to take him either here. Maybe he's there in the 4th round if we need to go after another tight end. As for the offensive line, a lot of them have gone. Eric Phillips is still available as a day 3, considering he dropped 57 spots. I would probably wait for him, maybe that first 5th round pick. Defensively, though, a lot of the top guys went, but again, nothing was really separating. A lot of these guys, if anything, I'm kind of leaning Braxton Fitzgerald here, a day 3, just because we see some versatility there. More so than at least everywhere else, there's just maybe a higher top talent, or singular talent probably I should say, with Sears, but not too shabby. At right end, there is one more day 3 in Quincy Cox, who, again, possible dual type of edge rusher. As for down the middle, we do have some round 3s to 4, so that's good to see. J.R. Crosby, strictly, it looks like a finesse rusher with a mediocre block shed, or you go with Marcus Jones out of Iowa. Both are built pretty similarly. You're going to have Crosby, who's a little bit taller, Jones slightly heavier, but you're going to have potentially, again, a little bit more of a dual threat here with some power moves and block shed. Gotta love the dual ability. Now, the top edge rusher that we had did go. There's still Brandon Davis. There is Trent McCree here, who I'm just interested in because it says run stopper with some potential coverage. But as an outside linebacker, I'm very hesitant on that. We still have 3 options at middle linebacker. If we want to double dip, I would probably wait for a 4th round if we were to do that. Corner-wise, top guys that I like, I mean, Lawrence Leonard, I like him later on. As for guys that might be closer to this selection, there is Peel. And I was interested in him. He is around 3 to 4 and could probably go. We already missed on one safety. So let's take a look here at Peel. 6'2", 221, 21 years old. Again, also that linebacker we took maybe could play some strong safety. Now, Peel is not extremely fast. If I were to draft a safety, I would want him 4.5 or quicker. So a little hesitant on him. Does have good play rec, awareness, not fantastic. He's not a good tackler. That is a D, so he's not going to be playing strong safety, and I feel like we already have a free. So not as interested now in Peel. So in terms of Marcus Jones, the DT who was slightly, not as tall, but slightly heavier, the bench reps just aren't fantastic. 30 to 28, he's not going to be super strong. Play rec is an F, tackling C. As for the taller DT in Crosby, same kind of bench reps. So these guys really aren't separating themselves much. You're going to have better awareness here. Tackling is a C. Now, one guy we have not taken a look at is tight end Max Pope. 6'3", so not super tall for a tight end. 251, 22 years old, out of LSU. Okay, 40. I mean, nothing spectacular, but I mean, solid. Bench reps, kind of the same sentiment, but he could jump and he has some pretty decent agility. As for the skill set, B break tackle, B catching traffic, B catching, B pass block. So I'd imagine run blocking probably isn't all too awful. He's not trucking anyone. That's a D, so good to know at least there. Deep route is going to be a B to a D, with medium being C to an F, but short is A to a C. We do run a lot of drags. So Pope has kind of worked himself into the mix here. The only thing really hurting Max Pope is we still have the potential of Jordan Thomas, who we know has better catch in traffic, just not as good of break tackle. And that's really the big separator there. Because you also have to think of what are our future options. Going back to the defensive line, if we want an interior guy, we only have Crosby and Jones. And I'm not really counting Tomlinson because we know that power moves is going to be a C because he's a run stopper, and that's a C. So he's at least well-rounded. He's just not going to have a super high ceiling. So these two have a slightly higher ceiling, and only one of them would probably be a dual style guy in Marcus Jones. He's just not very strong, so would have to play a left or right, and definitely not a DT. As for all the linebacker options, Roger Wilkins here, he went up at least 4 spots. Thurston went down 26, so that is a little concerning. Let's take a deeper look here at these linebackers. 6'2", 239, 22 years old. Solid athlete across the board. Really good awareness in injury, so you don't have to worry about that. Play rec not as good, and he's definitely not as solid in coverage as the linebacker we took earlier, but does have good stamina. Hit power, he's not as good, so he's not going to be a big hitter. Feeling like he might be a little bit more cover style. He's a field general, but probably with that second rating is going to be more of the cover style. There's then Earl Stockton at 6'2", 232, so two pretty similar builds here with two pretty good athletes. A power moves is interesting because that means that he might be able to be a pretty good blitzer as well with a hit power. We're not for sure on any of the coverages, but tackling is also a B. So Earl Stockton does seem intriguing. And again, I feel like he could be the better of the options, at least more well-rounded compared to everyone else. So we now have 3 options. We've at least narrowed it down. Earl Stockton, or the not as strong, so probably a left or right end Marcus Jones, or there is Max Pope, but we have the later option in Jordan Thomas. So I feel like that drops out Pope because we have another option late. We don't have another option for this defensive line, really. You could consider some of them, but Shelby's looking more like an outside linebacker, and definitely the rest are outside linebackers. There is Quincy Cox, who might also be an outside linebacker. At 263, he runs a 4.8 to 4.7, so he's just not a strong interior defensive lineman, less strong even than that of Jones. So Jones, or we double dip at linebacker going with Stockton. Well, Stockton went up 3 spots, Jones went up 1, and I just feel like the better player is Earl Stockton. I feel like he has the higher ceiling, the more well-rounded. It's another linebacker. We already have at least 3 now, but I think Stockton is the better player. So going with just best possible talent, it's another linebacker, another hidden dev, another linebacker with 90 plus speed, 88 acceleration, 84 agility. He could jump, decent strength. We might end up needing to trade our top linebackers depending on the ratings of these guys. And from there, we move to the 4th round, see who's available. If either of the tight end or the defensive tackles are available, we will probably go that direction. And of the tight ends, Jordan Thomas is the only one left. Now, I was perfectly fine with going with Thompson, possibly with this selection. As for the defensive linemen, they both did go. So I'm fine with that. I wasn't sold on any of these defensive linemen. A lot of it was a toss-up, and we'll just kind of be able to pick best of the bunch. There are some decent options that might be more of exterior kind of style, but I think that definitely helps us out because now we don't have to really question anything, and we could go after either Jordan Thomas or see if our center is still there. No, our center did go, so no question, it's Jordan Thomas here. Picking up a tight end for the future, He's a normal dev with 83 speed, 84 acceleration, 84 agility, 80 jumping, and 73 strength. Now jumping forward to the 5th round, where we have 3 selections all in this round of guys that we have interest in. The running backs we did like have gone. It's fine by me. We have 3 solid running backs. Any receivers left? There are still some receivers. We could catch a fallen Jaden Ricard out of Connecticut. We looked at him earlier. Let's see a reminder here of the skill set. 6'3", 225. He's just slow. That was the concern with him, and he's not a polished route runner. The other options, Antonio Walton, a smaller, more gadget style kind of guy. There is Alex Burrows, and I feel like I remember seeing him late on, and I had interest. Round a 4-5. Rest of the skill set there and the physicals, I mean, nothing spectacular. Yeah, just not polished. We might just not even be coming away with a receiver from this class. As for the remaining offensive linemen, we got a lot of potential undrafteds, so no starters there. Defensive line, looks like we got some outside guys. Braxton Fitzgerald, a 6'4", about 260. Looks like he might be pretty well-rounded. He's definitely on the board. Now at corner, I did have a couple guys I was interested in, but the primary one I was interested in, the 6'2", 200-pound corner, he did go. So that leaves us with some okay options. Jaquan Cash out of Oklahoma did go up 22 spots. He has some intrigue, but also looks kind of similar to Lindsey Harris. So let's see their individual ratings real quick here. As for the athletics, I mean, solid. Nothing too bad there. Does have the B press, just not a zone kind of guy. Nor can he really hit. That's an F. B catching. There's some interesting ratings here as a day 3, round 5 selection. It's not most likely going to be a starter. It'll be a developmental kind of player. A injury is good to know here with Harris. Catching is also a B. Tackling is a B. Did we have the tackle rating from Cash? Or was that the spread? Was the spread B to a D? So it would have to be the top end. Honestly, either of those guys are fine. We could definitely go with either. As for safety, Peel is still there. And it was the tackling that threw me off with the D. So going back to take a look on roster, because Gardner Johnson could also play strong safety if need be. We also have the linebacker that possibly could as well. Now Johnson does have the man, he has the zone, hit power, tackling is a 63, so makes me feel like we still maybe keep him. At the free safety spot, Xavier Woods. I know he's played some strong safety. His tackle rating is better. He's just not as good of a man cover. That's 69, which I'd prefer a little bit more. So with Von Bell, who is 29 years old, zone is solid, but man only 71. Tackling 71 as well. So nothing spectacular with either of those guys. Then Jamie Robinson also does not quite have the man coverage that we're looking for at strong. So none of the guys we have really are fitting what I would want for strong safety. And going back to Peel, the tackling is a D, so he's definitely not going to be a strong safety for us. Do any of these guys here that we have available, do they possibly fill that out? Not Johnson, tackling is a D. Over at strong safety, there is Austin McKenzie, a day 3 projection, 90% completed for the scout. Now they say he's a zone type, 23 years old out of Kansas. Not blazing speed, but not the worst I've seen. Overall, pretty solid athlete, but the man coverage is a D. So he's definitely a free safety. So definitely none of these options here at safety are intriguing. We have our free. And right now I would say corners are leading the way with either Jaquan Cash or Harris. There is an outside linebacker in Brandon Davis available as a day 3. He's 21 years old. Does have B block shed with B power moves, A to C finesse. He's listed as a power rusher. 22 reps, some decent speed. Injuries, A to a C. Tackling is a D. It's not fantastic, but he's at least going to be a well-rounded edge with some ability to stop the run. So, dual style guy laid on. That's rare. But is he better than some of these other options that we have that could be? So Braxton Fitzgerald, I feel like he's the most comparable of the two. 23 years old out of Florida State. And he is a bit faster. I feel like a little bit stronger. Overall, solid athlete as well. Play rec and awareness is there. Tackling is better than, I believe, the other guy. So Fitzgerald, I think, gets the edge there. He is the second left end available. As for Davis, he's the second left outside linebacker. And then the corners we like, they still got a little bit. It's going to be a decent chunk until we get to our next selection, 28th in the 5th round. We're at 5th. But I feel like we finally go with one of our options for the defensive line as we skip them quite a bit. So let's go Braxton Fitzgerald, 23 years old, out of Florida State, a normal dev with 83 speed, 79 strength, 88 acceleration. Gonna at least provide, at worst, depth. Maybe we'll be able to compete a little bit with our, right now at least, starting edge rushers. Now with the 28th pick, our corners are still available. Jaquan Cash and Lindsey Harris. Of the two, I like the build better. With Cash, I like a taller corner. He is 3 inches taller than Harris. Weight, though, about the same. The man-to-man, pretty solid 40, 4.4 to 4.46. I mean, broad jump and 3 cone are the best, at least from his college pro day. In the combine, we're solid. He has press. He's just not a hit power kind of guy, so most likely is not going to be a slot, but with the press, would try to get him to the outside. He's at least someone to develop, and that's what we're looking for here, probably here on out. So let's go Jaquan Cash, a hidden dev. 90 speed, 91 acceleration, 87 agility, 85 change of direction, and 84 jumping. He's not strong, but we knew that. Now with our final selection here in the 5th round, Solomon Rout, I think is how that's pronounced, out of Rutgers, a DT, who's listed as a power rusher, B there, but he has C as the rest of the top 4. Have interest for sure. 23 years old, solid bench reps at this point in the draft. Overall, a pretty solid combine for him. And he does have C tackle, so I mean another C in there. He's well-rounded at least, even awareness is a C, so you kind of know what you're getting here, and it's at least an average player. Late on, I'm fine with that. Let's go with DT Solomon Rout. Another hidden dev, 86 speed, 81 acceleration, 78 jumping. He's not very fast, he's not very quick, he's not very agile, but he's a true DT we can slap right down the middle. And that brings us to our final selection. What do we go after? Kind of just take our best pick of who is available. Now, surprisingly, Adam Fisher, a round 2 to 3 projected receiver, went up 2 spots out of Rutgers, yet he's available down in the 6th round. He's 23 years old, solid speed, nothing spectacular, but solid. But everything is very questionable in terms of receiving skill set. This dude had to have like changed positions, and he's actually like a quarterback or something. I mean, that would just have to be the case, because these don't look like very good receiving ratings whatsoever. And with this selection, I'm feeling like we go with a corner in Jeremy Crowley. 6'2", 182. He's a slot archetype, 22 years old, out of Nevada. He runs pretty fast. A 4.36 to a 4.42. Bench reps consistent at 10. He doesn't have a great vert, but he has a good broad jump. I don't know how that translates, but yeah. Pretty decent 20. Okay, 3 cone. And he's just consistent, again, across the board. With C, man coverage, play rec, press. We're not sure about the zone. I imagine it's probably about the same. But he does have A block shed and B tackle. So someone who could play slot corner, maybe even potentially a hybrid safety kind of guy as well. So Jeremy Crowley with the player flexibility is our final selection. He's a normal dev with 93 speed, 90 acceleration and agility, 86 change of direction, 74 jumping. So it's a good thing he's tall. Well, that does bring us to the end of the draft. And after the draft, we see trade offers coming in for Xavier Woods, Von Bell, and Dante Jackson. So trades can definitely take place. But let's meet our draftees and see how well we hit. We had quite a few hidden devs, but what are the overalls? And overall, I'd say not too shabby. Surprisingly though, Stockton is the higher overall of the two linebackers we took. Didn't expect that. Greg Hodgins though, a 71 overall hidden dev, and he has plenty of speed, pretty good tackling, acceleration, solid awareness, really good coming out the box. Does still need to work on some things, and yeah, with the cover skills there, he's definitely not going to be playing any strong safety for us. We need much better ratings there than that, but someone that we could definitely start developing behind our, well, I want to say 29 and 30-year-old middle linebackers. And well, apparently also behind the other rookie in Earl Stockton, who is the hidden dev as well. Better cover skills, at least zone-wise. Man coverage is lacking from him, but he has the ability to probably start day one. So we might have another player in which we can trade, because I'm seeing ratings here that definitely should get him out on the field in all three downs because he can cover. As for the tight end, Jordan Thomas is a 69 overall, so not as high as I was hoping, though not that far off from a lot of our second and third tight ends. And with him, you're going to have some solid catching, a little bit of some run blocking as well. Catching traffic, 79. Injury, 94, so don't have to worry about that. I mean, overall, I feel like it's a pretty solid guy and kind of fits in with the style of tight ends that we've used. Now, as for Fitzgerald, he's a 67, but he's labeled as a left end, and that's definitely not where we're playing him. So let's switch him over to an outside linebacker and see if that jumps up. And surprisingly, I think it actually went down one. So a 66 outside linebacker here for Braxton Fitzgerald, the normal dev, 71 finesse, 63 block shed. So he's definitely going to need to work on that, and he's going to be depth for sure behind Wanham or Gross Matos. As for the cornerback in Jaquan Cash, another hidden dev with getting a boost already, a 69 overall. The man coverage and press solid out the go, at least for a building point. Zone is definitely going to hold him back and will probably, for the majority of his career, probably be that at best third, maybe fourth corner coming off the bench. But he does have some tackle ability, so might be able to play himself into a slot role. As for the DT and Solomon route, one of the other hidden devs, 64 overall, and the power moves versus the block shed not as even as I was hoping that they would be, but he could definitely develop as an interior pass rusher who's just not extremely fast, but a big body who could learn from some pretty solid dudes up front. And lastly, we went with Jeremy Crowley, a normal dev, 67 overall, and a vast difference between the zone coverage compared to the man press. Isn't as high, but he was a slot style, and again, he has some tackle ability, so we'll definitely stick with a slot role, but kind of the same as the other corner that we talked about, just a little bit worse. Overall though, we brought in a lot of different guys here who's going to help fill out depth, see a little bit of some rotation. Stockton will probably get a lot of playing time his first year, his rookie year. Everyone else will definitely be a developmental, and hopefully we see Hodgins take a good step forward, considering he was a second round pick and our first pick of this series. But I also wanted to take some time to take a look at some of our opponents, see how everyone else did. And the Falcons, who had a full slate of picks here, nothing all too crazy. They went with an offensive lineman in the first round, a 72 overall. Then the second round, another offensive lineman, 74 overall. So they really didn't bring in any starters for these skill positions. They back up quarterback in the 6th round, but they might have found themselves a couple starters for the offensive line. As for the Buccaneers, a similar start as they also went offensive line, a 74 overall tackle, though they did in the 2nd round get a 75 overall corner in Junior McCann. I can't remember if he was on my list or not. I feel like he was. Oklahoma State corner, that sounds familiar. Either way, they found themselves a hidden dev who's very much a zone style, probably why I wasn't all too big on him, like the man. But he has some press. I mean, overall, he'll probably be a pretty good cornerback in a few years for sure, and that's joining a defense that is trying to get a whole lot younger. They found a guy that will definitely help them out. Past there, Nothing I think is going to be all too impactful. Maybe, potentially, depending on some regression, a new starting quarterback in Raymond Aragon in the 3rd round, 6'5", 220. Maybe taking over for Baker Mayfield. He's got an arm, okay accuracies to start, not very much mobility. Now, as for the Saints, they didn't have a whole lot of picks, just 4. And in the 1st round, sticking true to everyone else but us in the division, they went with an offensive lineman, a left tackle, Emmett Dorsey, 72 overall. Then in the 2nd round, they went with Jamie Cruz. This was the receiver I wanted to go after, and turns out it probably would have been a pretty decent pick. A hidden dev, 75 overall. And yeah, I feel like that would have been a pretty solid guy to team up with everyone else we had in that receiving group. I mean, Terrence Marshall and him would have battled for that starting spot, and I think it would have been a good pick. We did obviously sign Juwan Jennings, and comparable, just obviously Cruz, a whole lot younger, 21 years old. As for the top player in the class, it was who I expected. It would be Sheldon Jett, the cornerback. We looked at him early on. He's a hidden dev, 84 overall, drafted by the Cardinals. And ratings, really solid. He also could tackle, blazing speed, 96, plus the 95 acceleration. But the big concern with him, majorly injury prone, 38 injury. He has good stamina, but that's not going to help if all your bones break every single time you hit the field. 38 injury, that is insane. We'll have to keep up with Sheldon Jett and see if his career is a short one just due to that injury. But that made me really curious to see how everyone else's injury ratings are, and it's really just Sheldon Jett that is dramatically low, 38, then a 40-point jump to the next group of players who all have 78. So weird, to say the least. But now at the end of the offseason, at the beginning of preseason, this is what the roster currently looks like, with a little bit of some change towards the top. CJ Gardner-Johnson becomes one of our highest overall players, similarly to Grover Stewart. Everyone else was originally here with the squad. Now at quarterback, for the most part, we stay the same. I did sign Max Duggan and some other either younger players, 1st year, 2nd year, maybe even a 3rd year, but all of them are going to be on the younger side. Now, Duggan is going to be a practice squad quarterback for us, that emergency quarterback, but he's also not too lower than that of Andy Dalton, but we're keeping Dalton on the roster because he is the mentor. At running back, I did add Julius Chestnut, and that was primarily because he had a little bit of what I was trying to find, but ended up not being able to, in a running back that can truck, but also catch the ball a little bit. So we'll see if he ends up getting any play time. Also, he could go to the practice squad if need be. And we also don't have a fullback, so maybe see if any of those guys can play fullback. We did add some receivers. Justin Ross was available, and I just figured we had to pick him up, because a lot of these guys that we did bring in after the draft, you're going to notice they're all short, medium route running specialists. He at least also comes with some pretty good hands. He's just struggled with a lot of injuries. 75, which is still a whole lot better than that cornerback that we just saw. The other guys we brought in, Antonio Sims and Jose Howard. Again, we're going to see guys that primarily short, medium route runners, release not polished, hands not polished, but solid guys to try to develop. And Antonio Sims, don't have to worry about him getting injured, 98. As for Howard, and they're also all similar size, about 6 foot, 200 pounds. Similar style here, though does have lower release at a 61, but in general fits with a lot of the receivers we have in this room. Kirk Williams we brought in, and he, for having a pretty decent overall, definitely has some weaknesses. Pass blocking is not really his strong suit. But overall, I mean, that's a very serviceable backup, and potentially I'm pretty sure I've even seen teams start guys worse than this. On top of him, we also signed Darian Kinnard, just trying to have a little bit higher depth for the guys here along the offensive line. Defensive line, we do need a little bit of some work. We did end up signing Mitch Russell, really just to be depth at this point. He needs a lot of developing, but he's young, has good strength, and hopefully we could see some of the block shed or power moves really start to rise up. in which we also signed another guy very similar to Russell in Jerome Sweat. Slightly higher overall, 65, but for the most part, he's like the same kind of player. Both of them are supposed to be depth, and hopefully we'll see how those two groups end up panning out after we get the whole different groups settled up. Obviously, Grover Stewart going to stay at DT, but Shai Tuttle could move around a little bit, as well as Tristan Hill. And then we have a bunch of other backups that we'll have to try to sort through. As for the outside linebacker group, we did have DJ Johnson from last season. Now moving into his second year, might have an opportunity to actually get out on the field. We didn't see anything from him in the previous year. He does have some power moves, not very much any block shedding, so he's kind of a one-trick pony at this point. But at least, again, we have the options, as we also have DJ Wanham and Gross Matos. We also have Amari Barno kind of just playing as depth at this point. And we might use Fitzgerald as a primary backup for both of these spots, depending on how him and Barno do compared to each other. As for the middle linebacker group, again, we have Shaq Thompson, who we could either start or we could trade. He has that tag. Jones does not. And we know what we're getting out of him. Neither of them have the mentor ability. So we'll probably focus more towards these young guys. Earl Stockton has the day one starter tag, and Greg Hodgins has the future starter. So all in all, we have a pretty good middle linebacker group. And Chirelis, maybe that's how that's spelled, he'll probably end up either getting cut or sent to the practice squad. As for the cornerback group, we did find an interesting player. After the draft, looking at all potential guys, we found George Shepard. Now, I do not plan on him staying at corner because he has no man coverage. I feel like he could play a little bit of some free safety for us. He has good tackling ability, and I feel like he would just fit better there. He has press, so he's gonna at least provide some flexibility if need be, but we're gonna move him over to free. I just felt like that is too good of a find to just be sitting there, and he probably wouldn't start anywhere else. We do need some help in terms of finding someone to really take over for maybe a slot corner, because right now we go from some 80s to below 70s. So right now, Juwan Cash may have to start. He has some tackle ability, so he could play out in the slot. He's just very raw, but a lot of the guys underneath him are also pretty raw. So unless we find someone maybe in a trade perhaps, we are looking not so great at the cornerback spot, as Henderson, he didn't want to come back. Free safety wise, looking pretty good. We could definitely move Xavier Woods on, and we could stick with Von Bell for one more season, or we could move over Woods and then trade on Von Bell. We'll see what all options are next time. But before we go, one more thing that I found is a rookie kicker in Cole Ford. Pinheiro just won Kicker of the Year, but very interested here in Cole Ford. 99 kick power we could hit from distance. The accuracy is not as good as Pinheiro. It's 10 points lower, but I feel like we might go with Cole Ford, especially considering the awareness is also higher. Maybe we could end up even trading Pinheiro for something. So before we go, why not? Let's tack Pinheiro onto the trade block, and we will start next episode probably with a trade or two. We'll also be starting in week 1. I'll go through the preseason. We already have offers on the board here for Xavier Woods, Von Bell, and Jackson, though Jackson now we can't really trade unless we get a decent corner from either of these other trades. We'll see what all happens next time, so do not miss out. I hope you guys enjoyed the first off season. There wasn't a whole lot of big guys that we brought in, right? But it's laying the foundation to then stack upon. And we definitely found some guys that were some foundational players. Linebacker will probably be good for a while, fingers crossed at least. But holes still around, but I still think the core of this team, the good players from last year, are still there, and we'll just have to see if any of these other guys can step up. So hit that bear icon on the bottom right, scroll down, hit the subscription button, and tap that bell icon so you're notified of when these videos go live. This series is every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So season 1 will be out on Monday. But tomorrow, we'll have the second episode of the Michigan State Only Challenge. That series out every single Wednesday and Saturday. So you guys got a whole lot of content coming to you every single week. So do not miss out as we start season 2 next time.